lived in a small city called Dallas City. It's a very nice city, and the weather is really cool. It's unlike any other cities that you will come upon when you come to Vietnam. Um, I was born in a Christian family. Both um, grand, my parents and my grandparents are Christian, and so, but at the same time, Vietnam is like a communist country. So when I was young, I was taught in the way of a Christian life, but when I went to school, life is kind of different because I felt out of place. I felt really lonely because I was the only Christian in my class. I feel like my childhood was very smooth. I had really happy childhood. I didn't have any brothers and sisters, but I have my cousins with me, and so we play with each other. We don't really go out to the neighborhood or anything. We just hang around the house and play with each other. So when I was in Vietnam, we watched a lot of TV. And so that's kind of depict a really ideal place to live. I don't know, I feel like I like the way the Western lifestyle when I was young. I like it a lot. I even wish to live in the US. That's even one of my dreams. I think when you look through the movies, you have like a really perfect place to live. It's like heaven. And in Vietnam, when we was in Vietnam, we didn't have a lot of things. Like it's not that we're poor, we're just that we think that life could be better. Like, that we could have a better life. So we think of the U.S. as the place to be. So when I was 14, I had an opportunity to go abroad to Singapore, and I really liked going abroad. So I went after I came back. I was dreaming about going to the U.S. to study, but I didn't know how. And so my dad had a friend who was a pastor here in Boston, and he was about to move to another place, and he asked my dad if he wanted to be the pastor of a Vietnamese church here in Boston. So after 3 years of paperwork, we came to the U.S. My current immigration status is asylum. When we first came, my dad was R1 visa, which is religious. He's the one who can work, and my mom and I were only R2 visa, which we came with him, but we weren't allowed to have social security number or green card, or we weren't even allowed to work. So, but 2 years after we came to the U.S., my dad passed away. So, and after my dad passed away, we didn't know what to do. We thought that we had to go back to Vietnam, and that would be a very terrible position for us because we came here under a religious visa, but then we came back to Vietnam, and Vietnam was a communist country. It still is. So we would face a lot of persecutions in Vietnam. And so we found out about the application for refugees and asylum. So we decided to apply. I had to fill out the applications, which is really stressful, and we didn't even have a lawyer because we couldn't afford one. We thought that we didn't have a chance because we didn't have a lawyer. But it's like a miracle. It's something that we know that God would do because we wouldn't have been able to do it by ourselves, by my own skill, because I wasn't even fluent in English, and my mom didn't know a lot of English words, and we need to ask a friend to be our interpreter during that interview. So it was hard, and because a lot of things in common that my dad just passed away, and we had to face this, so it was extra harder. So when I was in Vietnam, I watch a lot of movies. I want to adapt the Western culture into my lifestyle. But when I came to the U.S., I think I changed a lot. I think I embraced my culture more than in the U.S. Than when I was in Vietnam, because maybe it's like something that I am close to, like I am familiar with, and it's feel at home. So it's really hard sometimes to adapt to the U.S. because of not the way, maybe sometimes because of their lifestyle, but the way that they think. And a lot of cultures have different thinking, and I have a different thinking because I grew up in Vietnam in a different environment, and so the people here, the American people, have a different thinking. Maybe we have different perspectives, so it's kind of hard to blend in. But it's interesting also to study, to learn. Oh, America may think about Vietnamese like this, and so we think about Americans is different. Like, I'm not sure if I have any solution, but I do have experience about this. Like, because after my dad passed away, we have to wait. Like, we don't know if we're gonna have an answer, because I read online that some people had to wait like 2 years in order to have their interview, and then after the interview, they still cannot be um, accepted. They have to file. Um, they have to go to court, and then a lot of process going on. So I feel really lucky that within a few months I got the answer. But I also know that it is frustrated. How frustrated it is to wait a long time without knowing the answer, and you don't even know what your future will be like. Because without this documentation, without the acceptance from the USCIS, I wouldn't be able to go to school or do anything. And even if I have a job, that would be illegal. So my experience has been shifted to a new way. Like, I don't try to live the way, like, try to um, to get the American dream anymore. It's just, I just try to live my way, the life that I feel like would be fulfilling, and to have an education, and to I don't know, do what I want to do. And I know a lot of people who dream to come to the U.S. because I was one of them, and my dream did come true, even though it's not the way that I had expected. But I know that if you want something so much, that you can do it. And America has a lot of opportunities for us to grow, and I'm really grateful for America, for this country, for allowing me and my mom a new opportunity to live and um, to move on to a better life and to have an education.